Hello and welcome to Georgia Sight's online needle tatting class. I know that the next video was supposed to be two-color tatting. Well, there was a question that popped up on the boards that we had new tatters that were wanting to know, what do you do when you run out of thread? Okay, in shuttle tatting it is different than needle tatting. I will say that up front. Okay, with needle tatting you have a lot more ends to hide, but it's doable. Okay, so let's get on with it. Here's a motif I was working on, and just for demonstration, I've already tied the knot at the end here, okay, because this is where I ended. Well, rule of thumb, first and foremost, never ever do you try to add thread in the middle of a ring or the middle of a chain. You want to do it at the end of an element. Reason being, if you do it in the center of the chain, okay, there are tatters, don't get me wrong, that can add thread in the center of a ring and they can move on from that, but they're very, very, very knowledgeable. Those are master tatters. I'm not a master tatter. Don't even think I am. Anyway, you don't want to, as a new tatter, add thread in the middle of your ring or the middle of a chain. A ring especially, because you can't close the ring. Okay, there are certain ways you have to do it in order to get that ring to close. And as a new tatter, it's a little too advanced for you right now to learn that technique. And I don't know of anyone that does teach it. The standard rule of thumb is just don't add thread in the middle of a ring or a chain. Wait till you get to the end of the element. So make sure you have enough thread to work with to get to the end of the element. If not, back it up to the element before. Okay? So, food for thought. Another thing you don't do is when you're tying off your ends, you do not tie them off in the center of a picot, and you do not tie them off at the end of a stitch. And remember, it's 2 halves to 1 double stitch, and that means you do not tie off at the end of a double stitch. You do it between the 2 pant legs. Given all that information, let's get started. We have really run ourselves short on thread on our needle. What do? Well, most tatters, okay, especially new tatters, you'll tat a little looser than as you get experience. And you can use your needle and run it, your tail, up through here, okay? However, I tat tightly because I've been tatting for so long, and most tatters, as you gain experience, you get a little tighter in your tatting. You want that, stiffness that you can get by tatting tighter, okay? So, on that note, here's what we do. First and foremost, we've tied that first shoelace trick knot, okay, or the knot that it's commonly called in needle tatting. You want to tie another half of that knot and make a completed knot, all right, because you don't want your ends to come out. You want everything locked in and in place and stay. So tie yourself another knot, all right? You'll have to work with it to get it down in there, but you want it tight, all right? Now what I do, I pull it off my needle. I grab my big eye needle. I've showed that to you before. See it? See how big that thing is? And it opens up. I drop that thread down in there and catch it with that big eye needle. Now this big eye needle is flexible, whereas this one isn't. So it makes it easier to pull your ends through using this. Okay? So, you want the back side of your tatting. Now, this is done in traditional tatting. Okay? Traditional tatting does not have a definitive front or a definitive back. You choose. Well, what I go by and most tatters go by is the rings. If the rings have the waistband on the picots, that's the front side. Back side, they're open. So that's the side we're going to work with. Okay? First thing we're going to do, run that needle up one side underneath of those stitches. Okay, you want to go past the picot because you don't want this thread to pop out between that picot. It's just like tying off your ends as you're sewing them in. Okay, here we go. You want to try to come out in the middle of the stitch, which we did, and pull that on through. Okay, now that one's ready. That one's in. Now we have to go to our ball thread. Open up our big eye needle, unthread it, and it catches that thread good, so it's not going nowhere. And we're going to cut from the ball thread probably about 12 inches. Okay, and there's a reason for that. You want to make sure you have enough thread to tie in. All right, so here we go. We've got our first tail in. Now we're going to take the other tail from the ball thread right up the other side. Okay, and it takes some doing, but you need to get it to go under them stitches. Okay, if you find it difficult, you can use the stitches in the chain, but you want to go under your stitches. See? That one just does not want to go through there. So we're going to take it down through the chain. You go where it wants to go. It'll tell you what direction it wants to go. That knot there is just being a tedious little bugger. There we go. Do believe we got it under the knot. We do, yay. Get it through that knot. Got it? And this does take time, okay? That is why the floss threaders are so great, because you avoid all this needlework here. If I had run floss threaders down both sides of this, this would be done. Okay, I won't lie to you, floss threaders, for tying in ends is the way to go. So when you see you're running low on thread, go ahead, run your floss threader in there. Now you want to go through a couple of stitches, 3 or 4 for more stability. Okay, once you get it under there, pull it through and it's done. Okay, now leave those tails hang, adjust them, tighten them up, and leave them hang. They're going to come in handy. Okay, now pull this off of the big eye needle, lay the big eye needle to the side. I always put mine in its case so I don't lose it, and we rethread our needle, our tatting needle. Okay, we get our floss threader, the one that's mutilated, our mutilated floss threader, and we rethread that needle. There we go. It's raining today, so it's a little dark in the house, and blah blah today. Okay, there we go. We've got our needle threaded. Now, here's the fun part. We got our tails. You want them to lay out of your way. That knot that you put in, you want to run that thread like this. Okay, you'll see it. It's right there. Run your thread down through that knot. Once you get it between the knot, pull it through. Okay, pull yourself enough thread to work with, and you're going to tie off another knot. All right, lock it in place, or you can continue on. It doesn't matter. The first stitch that you do, okay, will lock it in, but if it's going to get somewhere, you want to tie a full knot in this spot to hold that thread. So if you choose not to, okay, you can go ahead and start your double stitches. Excuse me, I did that wrong. We're going on a chain, aren't we? Yes, we are. So we're going to put 6 double stitches on there. Leave those tails hang until you get your next element in. All right, because everything will lock down in place. But like I said, if you're going to use this on clothing or something that's going to get a lot of wear and tear, do tie that knot to keep things from slipping. Okay, you don't want, last thing you want is your tatting to come apart in the washing machine after all that work. All right, we've got our chain. Pull our thread through, get that going, and everything is ready to rock and roll. We tie off our knot. Okay. Reverse our work, and we're ready for our next element. But before we move on, now we snip our tails. Get all our thread out of the way and snip right up next to the tatting with those scissors I told you to invest in getting, the close cutting sharp scissors. Alright, now everything is ready to go. This was the tail from our ball. Our ends are tied in and everything's done. But like I said, when you see you're going to run a little low on thread, go ahead, throw a floss threader in there. You can pull 2 threads through that chain. It's a little snug, I won't lie to you, but you can pull 2 tails through a chain. You can pull 2 tails through a ring. If you pull 2 tails through a ring, it distorts it a little bit. So if you see you're running a little low, go ahead, pop your floss threaders in there and utilize those to pull your ends through. It'll save you a lot of headaches on sewing those ends in. Okay? So, I hope that showed you how to continue on and add more thread. Now, promise, next video, 2-color tatting. Okay? So until the next video, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and happy tatting.